What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that's kinda sleepy, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/NuclearRevenge. Okay, today's one and only story, which is a really long one, is called Nuclear Ghosting Revenge on Cheating Fiancé. First time posting, long time reader, short time member of Reddit. Not sure if this is pro-revenge, nuclear revenge, or nuclear ghosting, but here goes. The players are myself, fiancé, and fiancé's mom. Time frame 2013 to 2016. It has obviously been several years since the incident, and I literally have never told anyone in my new life about this. Tonight, I have some good wine to drink and figure I'll let my fingers do the talking. I thought I had met the perfect woman. We met in the last year of college. We met at a party and hit it off instantly. She was a beautiful blonde with sun-kissed skin, and she could have been a model. Think Kate Upton type figure. She was kind, compassionate, sympathetic, good listener, and had an active life with many friends. She liked my friends, and it was awesome over the 3 years we knew each other and how our friend groups merged. Several of our friends began dating each other. It was some of the best times of my life. I was on for a post-grad in finance, and she had a degree in contractual law. This is just to say we ended up being successful in our own rights. But I'm no slouch in the looks department either. 5'11", 190 pounds, and liked the gym. I wasn't a super athlete, but let's just say I was built. But I was and am very shy and didn't have a lot of relationships prior to meeting her. First evening we met, we were smitten. First night we talked all night. Then it went to texting and phone calls daily, then dates weekly. Then after a year, when I started working my new job, she moved in. I loved her family and her family loved me. Mostly her mother, as her father was standoffish, as he was to everyone. It was a whirlwind romance. After 2.5 blissful years of overseas vacations, hiking trips, and luxury vacations, I proposed to her. She said yes. I was over the moon. She was doing all the planning for the wedding. We were talking about our futures together, buying a house, children, and family trips that we were going to take together, and all such things like that. Then it happened. One evening, after we both get home to our apartment, she is a little distant. I think I noticed it right away, as we were always very affectionate towards each other. This would only happen about once a week for the first month. After proposal, then it was more frequent. I would have been none the wiser, except that I used to listen to a lot of Reddit on YouTube, so I waited and observed. These bouts of ignoring me would only last a couple of hours, then she would be right back to normal. But after 6 months, with the wedding in a year, she was like this almost every night. Sex was still great, relationship with her parents still great. But over Thanksgiving at her parents' home in Louisville, Kentucky, we live just north of DC, she was standoffish towards me in front of her mother. Now, her mother was a very observant woman. She pulled her daughter aside to talk to her, and I could hear them arguing. After some heated but muffled words, they returned to the rest of the family and carried on like nothing was going on. I figured I could ask her about it later, and did. She was not willing to talk about it and asked me to wait until we were home to discuss it. I agreed, as I loved her deeply and thought we could work through anything. Her mother was an older version of her. Same stunning looks, just a few grays in her long, thick blonde hair. This is important. Back home, I asked her about it, and she was unwilling to discuss it. When pressed on it for a week, she finally confessed that a guy at her work was trying to get to know her better. She wanted to be forthcoming, so she showed me her phone, and as I looked through it, I noticed that all the texts that would have happened during the time she was withdrawing from me were removed. There was nothing untoward in the text, but I did go into her phone settings and turned on her locator on her phone as we shared the same phone plan. And I honestly thought it would make me see that she was not doing anything wrong. Was I wrong? That second weekend after Thanksgiving, she had a company Christmas party. I had planned on going, but came down with food poisoning and had to back out. She had a girlfriend pick her up from our apartment, as they planned on drinking a lot and had a designated driver for the evening. We had planned on going out all night, so I told her to have a blast and I would see her in the morning. So as I'm puking my guts out and barely able to get off the toilet for more than 30 minutes, I grabbed my phone and watched her location. First, it was a restaurant, then the venue of the company party, then a bar. None of this alarmed me until I saw her phone stop in a downtown hotel. At this point, I was miserable in more ways than three. Projectile vomiting out of my butt, mouth, and now soul. I finally fell asleep due to sheer exhaustion at 2 a.m. At 7 a.m., I awoke and saw she was still at the hotel. At noon, she finally comes home and I am on the mend. She loves me up and I asked her about her previous night without mentioning anything about knowing her locations. She talks about the restaurant, party, the bar, but then says she went to her girlfriend's house to crash for the evening. First lie. For the next 3 months, she has to start working later and later 3 to 4 days a week. As I start asking her about it, she becomes more and more defensive. I talked to her mom one evening when fiancé didn't come home until late. I asked her mom about the Thanksgiving conversation, and she admitted to me that she thought her daughter might be stepping out of our relationship because of how she read her body language. She also said that her daughter was being more and more distant with her in their weekly texting conversations. With all this speculation that was going on in my mind, I kept it to myself. 2 weeks later at work, I ended up getting a new project at my company that was going to require me to fly to the Midwest Monday through Friday for the next 5 weeks, starting in 2 weeks. It came with an increase in salary, and as I broke the news to my fiancée, she was delighted for me. I didn't think that she was excited for the same reasons I was. So I went online and ordered 4 motion-activated spy cameras for my apartment. I put 1 in the living room entry area, 1 in the kitchen, 1 in our bedroom, and 1 looking down our hallway. They were very small and connected to the internet via a hidden network so they couldn't be spotted on the Wi-Fi network. I secured the cameras with a password and waited. On my first week out, she had girlfriends over the first 2 nights and never worked late once. The 3rd night, a guy came over. I was enraged. I'm sitting there in my hotel room screaming at the monitor and calling her every name in the book. Then they went all the way. First on the couch, then in our bed. She bent ways for him that I didn't know were possible. What was the worst was, as I am watching them get it on, I call her to see how her day went. She hears her phone ringing, holds her hand up for him to stop, and answers the call. I ask her why she's breathing heavy and said she was at the gym working out. As soon as the call is over, she goes right back to doing the dirty. When I got home Friday evening, I ignored her and went right to bed. And early Saturday, got up and went cycling. I was so upset that I didn't even realize that I biked over 50 miles from our apartment. The furthest I'd ever biked before was 30 miles. But that day, I went 105.6 miles. Getting back absolutely exhausted, I showered. Then she and I went out that evening and had fun with our friends and had a lot to drink. Is it breakup sex when the one you're going to break up with is oblivious? I was bursting inside. Heartbreak, anger, rage, feelings of betrayal all swirled around in my heart and mind. She, who used to be so attentive, was oblivious to all this. It hurt so much because I loved her so much. I finally confided in one of our mutual friends and he told me that they knew all about it for months. I was finally told. They all felt sorry for me, but no one again said a damn thing to me, which is why they stopped inviting us out with them. I hadn't noticed it before, but I could look back and see that about 3 months prior, they gradually invited us, or me, less and less. So I figured I would try and win her back. The next weekend, I planned the entire weekend as a complete weekend of spoiling her in every way. Wined and dined, pampering, massages, rubs, and talking to her about future plans and about how much I loved her. I knew I was starting to break through when, after her 4th glass of wine, she started to cry, and I could tell the guilt was coming up to the surface. I asked her what was wrong, but she would choke up every time she tried to speak. I then told her that if she did something in her past or was having some kind of conflict in her mind that she needed to speak to me about, that I was more than willing to talk with her about it. And if forgiveness was needed, then I was more than willing to forgive and move on. The only words that came out of her mouth was how much she loved me. It actually hurt to hear that from her, as I now had 4 separate videos of her and the other guy in our apartment getting it on. Over the next 8 weeks of traveling to the Midwest, the trips lasted for what would be 10 weeks, I recorded over 41 hours of her having sex with what I found out was her coworker. She never worked late once while I was gone. I tried every weekend to be extra attentive, and each week she got more and more distant. After watching this for 8 weeks, I was done. So I devised a 12-step getaway plan. Gather evidence. Get her out of the way in order to execute my plan. I scheduled a 2-week exclusive getaway trip for us at an all-inclusive resort in Barbados. She was ecstatic. Then, a week before the trip, I claimed I had to back out and told her to take a friend. I knew it was over when she showed no disappointment that I couldn't go. She scheduled coworker to go with her. Terminate our apartment lease. It would expire 3 days into her trip, and I was the sole signature on the lease. Find a job in another town. The company I had been assisting in the Midwest had offered me a job with a slight increase in salary. Find a new place to live. I got an apartment in the above said location. When she is gone, perform the following. 6. Take her to the airport, go back home and pack all her things, same day. Saturday. 7. Get a new phone number, phone, and email. Cancel all social media. Monday. 8. Separate us completely in regard to finances. Withdrew all monies from our joint accounts and then closed them. I put all her money in an envelope and packed it in her things. Monday. 9. Have the movers pack all my things up and ship it west. Monday. 10. Take all her things to her mother's house 600 miles away. All my fiance's belongings fit into the back end bed of my F-250 crew cab. Tuesday through Saturday. Give her mother the evidence. 12. Start my new life. I didn't want to do anything that was illegal, so I made sure that nothing of hers was missing. It was so hard to pack all her stuff nice and neatly away. I never cried so hard in my life. I have read so many times on Reddit about significant others saying they will never do it again when caught, but they don't stop. My hope was that she would genuinely confess so we could forgive and move on. She never did. Twice, she came really close, but her secret was too hard for her to reveal. Tuesday morning, I left our apartment north of DC for the last time. It took 10 hours to get to her mom's house. What happened when I got there, I was not prepared for. I arrived at her mom's house around 8 in the evening. I figured she would be surprised to see me since I was coming down unannounced. Since they lived in a gated community, I had to buzz her house from the front gate. So she was waiting for me outside when I drove up. I could tell that she had been crying when I walked up to see her. I asked her what was wrong, and she hugged me, bawling that she thought her husband was cheating on her with a much younger, skinnier, and prettier woman. Dumbfounded, I just held her for what was probably 10 minutes. She soaked my right shoulder with her tears and snot. When she finally composed herself, I asked her if we could go in and talk. We went in and I asked where her husband was, and she indicated that he said he was going fishing with his buddies at a remote cabin an hour away. Then she said, "He hates fishing." She gave me all the indications that she had picked up on, and apparently it had been going on for about a year. So doing a little bit of research, we found a credit card hold charge for a 5-star hotel that was only 20 minutes away. One call later confirmed her husband was in fact there for a 4-night stay cheating with his mistress. 2 peas in a pod, I said. What? She responded. 2 peas in a pod, I said again. Your husband is cheating on you and your daughter is cheating on me. That's why I came here to drop her stuff off and move to redacted. I showed her the evidence in a binder on screen captures I had made. After looking at the first 3 or 4 pages, she looked at me dumbfounded. We both hugged and cried for a good 30 minutes. At that point, she said, "Stop crying," and looked at me and said, "Well, tonight there's nothing we can do about it except for you and I to knock out these 3 bottles of Moscato and screw in every room of the house." She grabbed 2 wine glasses and a bottle of Moscato wine and walked out to their private pool deck saying, "Are you coming out here or are you going to get freaking revenge?" Now, I won't go into much detail because I don't want to get blue balls, but that night and for the next 3 days, we, loved nonstop. Lots of love, apparently. After those days were over, we passionately said goodbye and I drove to my new destination. She kept me informed as to everything that happened when now ex-fiancé got back. The day fiancé got back was epic. I canceled my phone the morning of the day she got back. So when the plane landed and she had called for a ride, it indicated the phone was disconnected. She apparently had her lover take her home. He dropped her off and left. When she came to the door, a strange couple, new tenants, opened the door and she freaked out. I can't tell you how many times she tried to call me because again, the number was no longer valid. She went to her girlfriend's to stay for a time as coworker was already married. When she called her mom in a panic, her mom told her that I had come down and dropped off all her things and mentioned that all her monies were down here as well. 600 miles. Her mom didn't tell her that she had screwed me more in 3 days than fiancé and I had in the last 6 months. But she did tell her that she knew that she was cheating on me and I had found a new job, place to stay, and a new career far away from her and all the friends we had, and that her mother was separating from her father due to infidelity. Apparently, she cried for days and took a week off of work. But alas, she found comfort in the arms of her married lover. Her mom never let her know where I was at. I had completely cut off that part of my life. The only link I had to that old life was fiancé's mom, and she has kept our secret to this day. Fiancé was ghosted the mosted. Oh my goodness, that was good! It wasn't quite nuclear revenge, but it was pro-revenge. He didn't really do anything unethical, maybe apart from the hidden cameras, but I wouldn't say that was too far. And no, I'm not knocking this story for that. No, I think it's better as a pro-revenge and not a nuclear revenge because this guy, he's keeping his dignity and he looks like such a badass now. And boy, was she dumb, not only for cheating with a married person, but also, because she had some outs. He would have forgiven her, and I don't know how she didn't suspect that he knew. Holy crap, the stupidity here. Yes, there was a lot of heartbreak, but hey, he got a MILF out of it, so what's the big whoop? I'm kidding, obviously. I'm sure he would have preferred to have both of their relationships intact and nobody cheating on anybody, but obviously father and daughter made sure that did not happen. Wait, that sounded kind of bad. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.